Hi, my name is Will and welcome to the drum room sessions for today. We have Palmerston North Band Depths in here. How are you guys today?
Good.
Doing well, yep.
Could you guys introduce yourselves and what you do in the band, and the guy that's missing as well, if you could not forget him.
I'm Josh, I do vocals.
DJ, I play guitar.
Jason, play guitar.
I'm Kahi and I play bass, and we're missing Sean who plays drums.
We're in here to talk to you today because you've just about finished your New Zealand tour. You got Ding Dong tonight.
Yep.
And that'll be a wrap. You managed to do 9 shows, which is pretty commendable. Would you like to tell me any stories of the road, or like the best show you've experienced?
There's been a few highlights for the tour. I think definitely our hometown Palmy. I definitely went off. A lot of friends came out to that, and it was just a really, really pumped show. But other than that,
Christchurch was really
Down
good.
south. Down south in general.
South
Yeah, down
Island
south,
in
yeah.
general was quite good.
What do you think? South Island shows are better or like more energetic? You think they're kind of starved of shows down there?
Yeah.
You
I
think
mean, like,
we'll-
because we go down, I think the last time we went down was with the Assassin. That was that 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
2 years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
So we're not going down there all the time. I don't know if it's got anything to do with us going down in winter. When not much is on, I don't know, but they just come out and it's always a good time. They're always so friendly and welcoming, and we just love playing.
They
down
appreciate the music a lot down there, I think. Yeah.
Right. Endless was your 4th release, and when did that actually drop? That was 3 months ago?
there. April 13th.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent, good memory. I'd noticed that the naming structure of the songs was quite different than releases in the past. You've sort of taken names from Egyptian gods and Greek gods and such. I wondered why there was that sudden shift in the naming of the songs. Was there actually like a theme to the whole album?
The main thing that we did differently with this album, we went in with a really specific goal and a plan to have this story from start to finish. So it's set in 3 acts, like a movie or whatever. So you got Act 1, which is Catalyst, which is how things start and start to unravel. The second part is Perception, which is supposed to resemble like things opening up. You're learning certain things. Thoughts on different things change, and then Discovery is the last one when you've got your climax and the end of the story. So it was supposed to be the story of birth and then death to rebirth at the end. So you've got this whole event that leads to this whole new being sort of thing. So where the Egyptian gods came into it, the reason why it's Egyptian is purely just because we liked Egyptian mythology and stuff like that. But the each god represents a certain emotion. For instance, Satek, who's the god of destruction, was supposed to represent the emotion like rage.
So you've kind of tied in the gods' names with the sort of emotion of the.
And I mean, like, it all ties together with the art as well. The art follows this being as he goes through and he meets these gods, and then has this journey right through to the end where he is absolved or has his redemption, so to speak. Yeah.
Cool.
And with those emotions from the names, like that obviously reflects heavily in the musical ideas as well as the lyrical content. Like, the album kicks off and it's just super intense and like lots of tension, and then release, and then sort of lots of dynamic to the album, and get to the last song, it kind of feels like the climax of of a movie or whatever. Like, just
Yeah, I've noticed that your actual writing has become a lot more sort of proggy and very. There's a lot of sort of odder time signatures coming out, like in your earlier releases, like Revelations, which is one of my favourite albums. Like everything's a little bit more straightforward, a little bit more predictable. But I kind of had trouble warming to this album. It took quite a few listens for me to sort of start to learn the songs or to like understand them, because they're all over the place. So what was that shift? Are you just sort of becoming better musicians and you want to push yourselves further, or what's What's the reason for that?
I think at the start of the writing process for it is that we wanted to make a shorter EP and release it quite quickly, but then it just turned into this whole album. And you know, I think the prog elements came probably from what we were listening to at the time, like with Josh. Josh does a lot of the writing, and what he was listening to at the time in his spare time probably reflected on what came out. But the overall idea was to have it a seamless start to finish experience. And I guess whenever you do something like that, it kind of does become a little bit more proggy.
Sure.
Well, it was. We just wanted it to be like our Catch 33.
Right.
We love that album to pieces, and the reason why it was so, you know, like it's separated from the rest of it, but you know, we were always intending to do, we'll do this weird thing, experiment, but it's okay because it's an EP and it's sort of a concept, and then you can sort of, you know, without everyone losing their shit because you sound different, and you could go back to sort of the old sound, and it was kind of just an experiment, but as it turns out, we kind of really like the stuff. Not that all the stuff in the future is going to sound the same, but you know, we'll definitely incorporate some of the elements that we never thought we'd do in this band. You know, some of the more proggy, the more the slower parts, so stuff like that, which we had never intended to do, but then it kind of just worked out, and we all loved it. So
it's interesting that you mentioned Catch 33 because that was actually the album that it reminded me of.
The idea was to have it like all as one song as well. So not each song was written separately like older albums, so it kind of flows weird. And
because you got parts from the early, you know, the first song or whatever that show up in the fourth song. It's like themes that go through.
Writing on themes, and also we used a lot more instruments that we hadn't used before on previous albums. Things like synth and brass and extra background instruments that you wouldn't really notice half the time, but in all the other albums there was none of that. So I guess that would add an extra kind of more proggy element to it as well.
It's a good thing being a band with a backing track, because you can just add all those elements combined and just play to that click. It's all there. So let's talk about the plans for the rest of 2018. Now this 9-date tour is almost at a close. So what's your plans for the rest of 2018, say early 19?
We've already got plans for the rest of this year. We're aiming to do a tour again with potentially international and dropping another single potentially, and like playthroughs and stuff, just more content. And then next year it's going to be heavily focused on internationals. So like we've already got somewhat an idea in February that we're going to Australia potentially, and then the States is lined up for later on. So
nice.
We're planning ahead like a lot more than ever, just because New Zealand, you know, we just tour New Zealand, and you know, it's kind of can only play Auckland and Wellington so many times, I guess.
Your opportunities run out pretty quickly.
Yeah, so like just planning ahead a lot, just keeping the ball rolling. Yeah.
So what about your writing process? Like not all of you live in the same town, and I'm kind of thinking that you probably use the internet, maybe write some stuff on a PC and send it to each other and then build that way, because it seems like the music you do is not really a jam sort of writing process. So could you explain how you write songs?
For a long time we've been using Guitar Pro, which is a software you can write out guitar, bass and drums and stuff like that, and then kind of get the playback to you, and it's really effective for what we do, because following on from the crazy type signatures and key changes and stuff, it's not stuff you can just jam in a room and then just like, let's try this, you know, you'd be there forever. So
you'd be lost pretty quickly, actually.
Yeah. So for us, it's really effective because if you have an idea, then you can really flesh it out, and in the band context as well. You know, you can like, I've got the guitar riff, but I can sort of write out some basic bass and drums and kind of hear the full band context, and then you send that. We have like a page on Facebook. We just send stuff to each other, and then Sean can go in and kind of write more drums that he would actually play, and then bass that Kay would actually play, and all of these things, and so by the end of it, you actually get pretty close to what you would get by almost recording like a demo or something. So you get a lot more focus on like what the song should be, and a lot of times like even kind of funnily enough like guitar tones and stuff like leads, and ambient stuff. Especially for this album, I pretty much like copied the sound from the Guitar Pro because Josh kind of did a lot of that, kind of nailed it the first time.
It's a solid way to like demo songs and
Yeah,
stay focused on the.
and especially with all of us being sort of, especially now even more separated and just busy lives, you know, trying to get all of 5 of us in one room all the time isn't an easy feat. So,
So you just sort of like just before gigs and before tours and stuff, you kind of like just sort of get together and jam a little bit and then go out on the road.
before we head
Which
out.
is why Sean's practicing today, because...
Well, he's recording some playthroughs of the new stuff actually.
Oh, really?
With the guy from K Drums. But yeah, basically, because I don't play an instrument. Like I know how to play guitar, but definitely not like this. So a lot of the time, I'll write riffs that are robotic as hell, and these guys will have to just put it in a way that's human.
I quite often pick up guitars and try to write stuff, and then I put the guitar down again. Don't do that.
I think the best thing we've got though with Guitar Pro is that once we finish a track on Guitar Pro, everyone has the exact same copy of that track and can practice in their own time.
Right.
And then when we get together and rehearse before, say, a tour, then everyone's kind of going in there with knowing what they have to do, basically, and it just allows us to not, we can get away with not practicing as much as
as long as everyone plays their part, it's more just tightening some screws rather than
When it comes together, it's like a finished puzzle.
And especially now that we have we run click tracks and things like that, and then obviously that helps us to play the whole album start to finish without any gaps or counters or anything like that.
At the perfect tempo as well.
Yeah,
It's that ambitious thing again.
If people want to find your music and get hold of you, if this is the first time they've ever heard of you, how would they do that?
So we've got our own website, deps.co.nz, and then we've got our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Big Cartel for our merch.
Tinder.
And things like that. But the best way to reach it is deps.co.nz.
It's got
Everything's
everything
on there.
And you can buy merch and all that stuff through that as well.
Anything.
All the albums, everything.
Anything in terms of the band.
Have you got fidget spinners?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Upon special request.
All right, well, I think that's probably about as much time as we have today.
Awesome.
Best luck with tonight, and next time you're up in Auckland, perhaps on your next tour or one of your internationals, maybe pop back and you can tell me what else you're up to.
Awesome.
Sure.
That'd be
Cool.
good.
Thanks
for having us, man.
Thanks very much. Right. I'll catch you next time.